This book, The Time Tunnel, was conceived in a very strange way. I had decided in an idle moment to reread The Wizard of Oz. This doesn't seem like a very dignified book for an 84-year-old man to read, but in fact, even at my age, there is a certain childlikeness that I don't want to lose. And I started the book, and I got as far as the Yellow Brick Road, which, if you know it, you'll know comes right near the beginning, when all of a sudden this thought came to me, why don't I write a children's book of my own? And suddenly I sat down. It was all given to me on a platter. I didn't have to think it through. I didn't have to work it out. The words flew. In 2 weeks, I wrote all 180 pages of the book. And it was completely effortless. One of the most fun jobs I've ever had. It's a children's story, but it's a story that people of all ages can appreciate. It begins with my own childhood. I was born in Romania, and we used to go to the Transylvanian Alps for vacation sometimes. And these two boys, one of them on the cover is me at the age of 6. And these two boys went out into the forest, and they came upon, and this is where the fancy begins. Until then, everything is true. But we came upon the ruin of a laboratory. And outside the laboratory, they found a dinosaur. And how could this dinosaur be there? After all, they were extinct 64 million years ago. And not only that, but although most of it is skeleton, there's still some flesh on it. And they just can't figure that one out. Anyway, they go into the back room of this laboratory, and they go into what looks like a hole in the wall. Turns out to be a tunnel. And they go down and get smaller and smaller. And suddenly they found themselves become nothing. And yet they're still conscious. And as they come out the other end, suddenly they find themselves enclosed in a sphere of light. And there they find a man who is unconscious. And they go over to him, they think of the sphere, and it moves to him. And they call to him, and finally they wake him up. And he's been there asleep for 5 years, but they're in a timeless zone. And 5 years, 100 years, 1 minute makes no difference at all. But apparently after his father died, he went back in time to 64 million years ago. And there he found this dinosaur, and something frightened him and caused him to come forward quickly, and he broke what is called the time barrier. And in breaking the time barrier, just as when you break the sound barrier, there's this sort of explosion. In this one, it's a much larger one. And he was gripping the dinosaur, which he had been riding, and as a result of that, he came forward with the dinosaur. Anyway, they go with this young man forward and backward in time, and they go back to Atlantis and to ancient Egypt, and they see how the pyramids were built and so on. And they have many experiences, some of them really very uplifting. The beautiful thing about this story compared to other time travel stories is, first of all, it's not trivial. Secondly, there's a purpose to it, that you can't change history, but you can learn the lessons that history teaches. And I'd like to close with the last, not quite the last, the penultimate, you might say, chapter in the book, in which they go forward in time to a period when man is very highly advanced. And one thing they discover is that all the houses of the people there each one is unique, each one is different. And the important thing that they are told in this time travel is that they need to overcome their sense of ego. Well, this man and the people in this time zone have overcome that sense of ego, and they understand their oneness with the infinite self, which is God. And why then, Donnie, which is me, asked this question, why then are they so different? You'd think that they wouldn't be affirming their difference from one another. And the answer is that they get rid of a false self, but their true self they rediscover in the infinite self. You never lose your own uniqueness. This is the wonderful teaching in this, that you always are unique. As Yogananda explained, every atom in the universe is unique. God is ever conscious, ever existing, ever new bliss. That ever new accounts for the uniqueness not only of every person, but of every moment in time. And when you find God, you don't find a sort of a gray, nothing to look forward to anymore. Every moment, and this is why the saints are all so full of bliss. The more blissful you become, the more you live in that eternal now, which is changing constantly. You have a great deal to look forward to. And the message of this book, finally, is that you are really, underneath everything, not a copy of anybody. You are yourself, you are unique, and you are a child of God.